Okay, what I wanted to go over here was thinking about composition. This is going to be our first step into understanding and really planning how we want to arrange these silhouettes onto a piece of paper. Now, in my instructions, I said you could simply just make it into 6 squares and put them onto the page. And let's say you got a whole bunch of shapes that are a little too big for 6 even squares. You're welcome to use 2 sheets if that's helpful. But we can also do something really interesting. So what I've done right now is I'm just thinking about my placement, and these are my sketches that I've created on the piece of paper that are going to be my patterns for when I actually put them onto the black paper. So for now, I can kind of use them before I make a commitment to the black paper. So I want to be careful. This is my good paper here. I want to make sure I'm not getting any extra smudges on there. We are trying to preserve and keep this as nice as possible. It is your goal to present a piece of work that doesn't have any smudges or mars on it. And the reason that I'm very particular about the way that we present our work is that if we have something that has a mar, a scratch, a cut, a wrinkle, a rip on it, all we see is that we don't actually see all the hard work you put into your piece. So this is our first step, playing with glue, playing with things that are very flexible. So be patient. It's not going to be easy at first. That being said, I noticed some of my paper is a little dirty, so I wanted to make that remark first. You could evenly just place things so that they all work on the paper, right? And that's interesting. But what happens if I put the spray bottle at an angle? And what happens naturally, I want to like angle this together for some reason. I start to create these objects that have a little bit more energy to them. As you've noticed, I could even put my paintbrush right here, and it'd be kind of static. That might be interesting. But if I match it with the spray bottle or cross it with the spray bottle, does it add something that's a little bit more dynamic? Typically, when things are at an angle, with the edges of the paper, they look like they're active. So play around with that notion, play around with that idea. And what I'm doing here before I actually cut out my paper is if I like this combination here and I think, oh, that's interesting, I could actually put that on the black paper together as one whole unit and cut that out individually, so that there would be one whole shape in black paper that I have going on here. So consider that if you want. Try not to overlap your black paper, because what will happen is that this looks like a solid inked in headset, but if I overlap it with a piece of paper and I see the shadow of that paper, it'll look like construction paper. It'll look like the cheap paper that it is. So by presenting it and practicing and being deliberate with overlap, making these be one whole shape as opposed to 3 different shapes, you can make a really interesting project that looks nice and clean and well presented. Okay, so the reason why I play with my objects on this paper here is I can see, well, maybe I want to make this a little bit smaller to fit into this space, so that it goes underneath that wire, or maybe I want to make these a little bit bigger. I can make that decision in another piece of paper before I actually try and cut it out in my black paper. So some helpful tips as you're getting going with making your silhouette presentation on your good piece of paper.